Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first YouTube episode of A Talk in Depth. I'm now actually going to be based on YouTube instead of SoundCloud. If you're one of my listeners on SoundCloud, thank you for sticking with me with this huge move. If you don't know the story and you're new to the channel of why I moved from SoundCloud to YouTube, you can go listen to that on that channel. I will leave a link in the description below for people who actually want to go listen to my podcast that I had on SoundCloud, because you never know when you're going to get those people who are new to the channel that are like, dang, I really like that guy. He's really good. I want to hear more of his stuff. And there are only like 2 or 3 episodes on my channel, and they have already listened to all of those and are like, I really wish there were more. Well, there are more. You can actually go to my SoundCloud channel and you can hear, I think it was 12 that were uploaded on there, and they're longer than the ones that are probably going to be uploaded on YouTube. They're like, ranging from 15 to 20 minutes long. I think there was one that was even 30 minutes long. But I am still going to leave that probably in most of my episodes on here in the description below. But today, instead of just going on a whole story again about why I've moved, I'm actually going to be reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Oh my gosh, finally! Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just so watchable. And like when I meet people who are like, I didn't really like that movie. It didn't feel like a Marvel movie. I'm just like, okay, you know what? There's just something wrong with you. Because that movie's great. It's so rewatchable. It's so entertaining. I don't know. But when it was announced that the second one was going to happen, I freaked out. I was super excited for it, and I've been waiting for it for like the past 2.5 years. And I finally saw it yesterday. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Like everything about it, I was just very satisfied. And I know critics are saying, it's not as good as the first, but it's still enjoyable. I'll touch upon why I think that's wrong, but I think it's one of those movies where it's like it's either hit or miss, and it definitely hit. And I don't know, just the things I'm going to touch upon. And this, let me just clarify, this is not the spoiler video. This is just the review video. The spoiler video will be coming soon. This is just the review, because I didn't really want to... This is just a movie I feel like I can't spoil for people. You have to experience it for yourself. Let's start with the characters. I'd say out of the main characters in this movie, like the main Guardians, so that's Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, Baby Groot, Yondu, and Nebula, I think probably the best characters, in my opinion, were Star-Lord, Drax, and Yondu. I thought those 3 were just phenomenal, and they were great, they were funny, they were so entertaining to watch. But I'll get back to why I thought those characters were good, but let's get to, like, the bad characters. I just thought Gamora and Nebula, I just don't like those characters. It's not the actors, it's just the characters. They're not entertaining enough, if that makes sense. Like, there's a story arc between those two with their sisterhood and Thanos. And let me just clarify, Thanos is not in this movie at all. Like, don't go into this movie being like, oh, I can't wait to see Thanos. He's going to be so great in this movie. Well, he's not in this movie. He's mentioned a couple times, but, like, he's not really, like, a main presence in it. It's just like, oh, this is the story arc between these 2 sisters. So don't, like, go to this movie being expecting to have Thanos, like, be a huge key player in it. He's really not. But the story arc between those 2 sisters is about how Thanos raised them when they were children. It wasn't, in my opinion, the most like, oh, I'm so devoted to the story, I want to know more of it. It was just like, oh, interesting or whatever. I see why, Nebula is so evil, and like why they're trying to make Thanos evil. But other than that, I just didn't really find those 2 characters interesting. I thought Gamora is just one of those characters that's just like, she's too serious for the Guardians of the Galaxy. Where, like, you got Peter Quill, Star-Lord, or Drax, and, they're cracking jokes all the time, and Gamora's just like, you guys need to stop, this isn't funny. And I don't know, I was just like, oh, you're putting a damper on the team, girl, like, just stop. But yeah, I thought, let's get back to the good characters. I already talked about, those characters that were bad. But I thought Drax really hit home with this. His jokes, he makes so many funny jokes in this, and they were just so entertaining. Like, there's one where Mantis, and Rocket are sitting by a campfire, and I won't tell you the joke of what it is, but, like, Mantis asks Drax a question, and Drax is like, yeah, go for it, and she does something, and it was just so funny. Like, you will not see anything like it in another Marvel movie, because it's so like, oh, they can do that with this movie, because they have the right, situation for it, and it was just really funny, and that I thought was pretty good. He also makes some other jokes that were really good. There was one about a penis. I was pretty surprised that Disney let them use that. I was really surprised by that. There were a couple penis jokes in this one, and it wasn't like, referencing a penis. They actually said penis a couple times, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a Disney movie. Wow, they actually let them use that. Which we'll get upon what else. There was something else in it that was like, Disney really let them use that. But yeah, most of Drax's jokes were pretty good. I'd say for like the whole movie, he's actually probably the most underused character. Like, being completely honest, and it's not a spoiler at all. They don't really use Drax a lot for this movie, except for the jokes, really. I'd say, like, if out of 100%, Drax's percentage of him being in the movie, probably 60%. I mean, he's not in it as much as I thought he was going to be. He's just kind of one of those characters that's just there. Because this is a totally Star-Lord and Ego story, not a Drax story. It's just Star-Lord and Ego, really. But yeah, Drax was pretty good. I really enjoyed him. I thought he was really funny. And I hope that, like, they do something good with his character. And you also learn a bit of his backstory, too. Not as much as kind of like one quick scene. But yeah, it was mostly about his daughter. There was one scene where he talked about his wife, and one scene where he talked about his daughter. Other than that, Drax was pretty good. Yeah, Drax was definitely a good player for this movie. Star-Lord now. Chris Pratt is one of my favorite actors ever. I've known who Chris Pratt is since the beginning of Parks and Recreation, even before that probably. He's just such a good actor, and I can't say that I can't wait to see what his future has for him, because he's clearly having a great future, but like, he's just in everything now, and he's such a good actor. I mean, I literally said this to myself last night because I had the Jurassic World Blu-ray. I was like, I don't know what people's problem is with this. I thought it was pretty good. Chris Pratt really was good in this movie, and he was, and I really like Jurassic World because Chris Pratt is just such a likable character and a guy in real life that you're just like, yeah, he can play a role and he can own it. And he does this with Star-Lord. He makes Star-Lord, the child he is. Even though in this one it's about growing up, Star-Lord still is a child, and there's a joke in this, obviously. I'm going to keep re-emphasizing this because this movie, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. There's a joke towards the very end when he's fighting the villain and like they're charging at each other and he goes into the form of something and it's just like, oh my gosh, you are totally just a child. But yeah, Star-Lord was really good. And this is totally a Star-Lord movie, Everything about this movie is just Star-Lord. It's about his parents, his heritage, where he comes from, why he does what he does. And so I thought that was really good for the movie because, we got that in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. But that one was more about shaping up the team, where you learned everybody's backstory. This one's more like just learn about Star-Lord's backstory, and I thought that was really good. Let's talk about Yondu. Okay, so in the first Guardians movie, it seemed like they tried to portray Yondu as like a villain when he's really not, and I thought that was like, oh, okay, I don't know that much about Yondu, but I know he's not a villain, so I don't see why you're trying to make him look like one. But in this one, Yondu is just the coolest character ever, because I wasn't the biggest fan of Yondu when the first one came out. But this one, Yondu is just so good. Everything, like, you learn about Yondu's backstory, you learn why he does what he does, where he's come from, how he was raised as a kid, and, like, why he and Peter have a close connection, which is a great story arc for this. But, yeah, even just Yondu's backstory is super sad, and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel for this guy, because, like, he's had a terrible life, and like the things he's done in the past that affect the future and like him currently were really entertaining. And like there's a story, like there's I don't really know how to word this right, but like there's like a scene where like people are like, dang, Yondu's going soft, the Ravengers, and they like talk about like, oh well, maybe we should get rid of Yondu because every time Peter Quill, Star-Lord, betrays Yondu, he doesn't do anything about it. And so, like, that's not what we want in a leader. And so you learn why Yondu does that, and you learn exactly the father and son relationship Star-Lord, Peter Quill, and Yondu have. I'm just going to say every time, if I either say Star-Lord or Peter Quill, I'm just going to refer to the other one. I don't know why, it's just a weird habit. He was just a really good standout character in this movie, and I thought he was really entertaining. He was definitely one of the better Guardians. And I don't know. They really wrote his character well for this movie. Michael Rooker does a really good job portraying him. So yeah, Yondu is definitely a character to watch out for in this movie because he's going to steal the show. And I think people are really going to enjoy his character. Now, I said a couple minutes ago, or maybe seconds ago, I don't know. It doesn't really give me the time listed on here. But basically what I said was they made the penis joke, and I was like, wow, they really got away with that. But then I said there was also something else they made a joke, or not really a joke about, but there was something else they did in the movie, and I was like, Disney really let them get away with that? And it involves Yondu. And basically what it is when we first see Yondu in the film, like literally the first time we see Yondu, he's with a prostitute. Like, he and a prostitute literally had just had sex, and she's, like, dressing herself, and he's dressing himself, and I'm like, I'm sitting there in the theater, I'm like, does he really let them do that? That's interesting, but I don't know. It's not really a gripe against the movie. It was weird that Disney let them do that because I've never seen anything else like that in a Marvel movie at all. I mean, they've had some scenes and like probably some of the other movies where it's like, oh, okay, I'm surprised they let that get by. But this one, I'm like, that's a prostitute, and they're literally just implying that they had sex by showing them getting dressed. So I don't know. It was interesting, but yeah, let's talk about the villains now, because that's gonna be interesting, because the characters were interesting. So like I'm going to say on this channel numerous times before I get into the villains, no spoilers unless I think something is spoiler worthy. On the topic of the villains, there's something that is spoilery, but I'm not going to spoil it because you just need to see it. So yeah, let's just get into this. Basically, the villains in this movie is a person named Aisha. I think that's how you pronounce it. She's the gold lady. I don't know. Don't even get me started on them. It's literally just a case of the other Marvel villains that, like, no one cares about, really. Because, like, they just keep showing up in the movie at random times, and you're just like, oh, you're still part of this? Dang, that's okay. Hi. But, yeah, I'm just going to straight up tell you, they have no effect on the plot, really, whatsoever. They just kind of show up, and they're just like, we're going to kill you, and then they just basically, ultimately, just get destroyed by the Guardians, kind of. And that's not a spoiler, because of how it plays out with them getting defeated by the Guardians. You'll just have to see. But yeah, they really had no effect on the plot, really, whatsoever. I don't know. I don't know. They were just super weird. I really didn't care for them. I'm not saying their story arc was boring. It was just kind of like, oh, it's just another way for, like, James. I think James Gunn is a great writer and director. Probably one of the best working today. Like, I was just like, really, James Gunn? Like, you didn't need these characters, because James Gunn... This is befuddling to me, because he wanted to have Adam Warlock in the story, which Adam Warlock isn't in the story. I'm just telling you that. But, like, I don't know. He was like, there are one character too many, and I'm just like, why didn't you just get rid of the old people then? I don't know. It was just weird. So, yeah, they didn't really have any effect on the plot. But the other villain is a dude named Taserface. I'll let that sink in for a second. Taserface. That's a reference to a joke in the movie, because Rocket has issues with the name Taserface, and you'll learn about that. But same thing again. He didn't really have any effect on the movie, really, except for, like, one scene. I don't know. He was okay. I'm not saying he was the best villain. He's intriguing, but the way, like, the dude portrayed him, it was just kind of like, you're kind of an idiot, dude. I don't know. These villains were not the best. But I can't get into the other villains because they're spoilery, so yeah. I'll talk about that maybe in my spoiler video. But yeah, that kind of really wraps it up for the villains. Those two villains didn't really have any effect on the plot, really. They were just kind of there to be there and, like, have, like, some minor story arc for our characters. Other than that, not really the best. Now let's get to Kurt Russell. I thought Kurt Russell did a really good job in this movie as Ego the Living Planet. You get a backstory of, like, why he's been looking for Peter and, like, how he met Peter's mom and, like, what his plan is for him and Peter to do as father and son. I thought that was really interesting. I think he's really one of the most intriguing Marvel characters that there's ever been. So I really don't want to give away a lot with Ego because, like, you really have to be there to experience it. But yeah, I just thought Kurt Russell did a really good job. He's actually in it for a lot more than I thought. Like, if you've seen the trailer, the third trailer, there's that scene at the end where he's like, after all these years, I found you. I'm your dad, Peter. I thought that was going to be, like, halfway through the movie. I'm just straight up telling you, no. That's, like, literally within the first 20 minutes of the movie. Like, Ego's in this a lot. Like, he's in it a lot. And I was like, good job. I'm happy because I liked Ego. I thought he was really good. Kurt Russell did a really good job portraying him. And his planet form is really cool. Apparently it's the biggest visual effect of all time. Over 1 trillion polygons had to be put into him to, like, make it, so I thought that was really cool. But yeah, Ego's really good. Kurt Russell did a great job portraying him. Let's quickly touch upon Rocket and Baby Groot. When I first saw the trailer, I was excited for Baby Groot, but my biggest worry was that Baby Groot was going to be marketed as the thing that was like, oh, he's so cute, and it was just going to be a way for, Target to make more Baby Groot toys or whatever. Actually, no. Baby Groot wasn't like the biggest star to shine in this movie. He was there. I don't know. I don't want to make it seem like I'm dissing Groot or making him sound little to the movie, because like I was just gonna say he's there to be there, but like he really wasn't. He had some effect on the plot, but like it was just another case with like the Draxes and the Nebulas of the movie, or the Taserface. He was just there for the story arc, but it was more of a Peter Quill and Ego story. And I guess same kind of goes for Rocket. Rocket did have a minor story arc in this movie that you learned about. But other than that, I mean, I thought they were both really good. Baby Groot didn't bother me as much as I thought he was going to be. You know, the movie was going to make him seem like he was too cute, like, you know, dumb for the little kids or whatever. Which I'm fine with. It's just like, with some of the movies I've seen over the last year, when they do that with characters, it's just terrible. No, Baby Groot didn't do that. There's one scene with Baby Groot, well, two scenes actually, with Baby Groot, Rocket, and Yondu. They're pretty cool of how Baby Groot does some stuff. I don't want to give it away, but yeah, it was really interesting. I thought Baby Groot was definitely better than I thought he was going to be. Rocket, I thought Rocket was okay. Bradley Cooper still does a really good job portraying him. You learn why Rocket steals, why Rocket does what he does, and I thought that was really interesting because, you know, Peter Quill, Star-Lord, and Rocket talk about this a lot in the movie, that Rocket pushes people away, and Rocket's like, okay, I don't care. Even there's literally one scene where Rocket says something to Star-Lord, and Star-Lord's just like, dang, you're really trying to push everyone away, aren't you? So yeah, I thought that was like, I wouldn't say emotional, but it was just like, you could see Rocket felt some sort of like, oh, okay. Because like, you learn why he does what he does, and I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, those two characters were pretty good. Yeah, I think most of the characters for this movie were just, like I've said numerous times, just there to be there because it's Peter Quill's story. It's about him learning about his heritage, his ancestry, and like the abilities he has. So, yeah, I think don't go to this movie thinking, oh, it's going to be exactly like the first one, because it's really not. It's not really like, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 where you learn about all the characters. It's more focuses on a couple characters, but mainly focuses on those two, I've said numerous times. Basically, to wrap this review up, I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is definitely worth watching. I think you will definitely go to the theater and have a good time watching this movie. It pulls at your heartstrings like the last 15 minutes of the movie. Just fair warning you, if you cry in this movie, don't feel ashamed. I didn't cry, but there are people who might, because it really does pull at your heartstrings with, you know, family and like father and son and like brother and sister and sister and all those kind of things. And I think that's what made the movie extremely good, because no other really superhero movie has done that. Not off the top of my head, but I'll probably think of something, or someone's gonna say something to me and be like, yeah, that was wrong, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think definitely go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I can't wait to see what the third one has in store. I think if I had to give a prediction for the next time we would see Guardians, because you always know at the end of these movies they always have the Guardians of the Galaxy will return. They had that at this movie, and I'd say if we're going to ever see them again, my best bet would be Thor Ragnarok. And that's not a spoiler for anything at all. That's literally just me speculating off the top of my head. I think we're going to see them in Thor Ragnarok before we see them in Infinity War. But other than that, definitely go see this movie. There's some great cameos, some great Easter eggs, and some pretty darn good post-credit scenes. And the Stan Lee thing, like Stan Lee's in all those Marvel movies, but his is really good in this one. If you don't know what it is, don't go like trying to figure out what it is if you haven't seen this. It's pretty good. But yeah, go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I think if I had to rate it anything, I still haven't come up with a rating system yet. I will soon. I have part of it done. I have like 12% of it done. That's a reference to something. Can you guess? But I'd say I'm going to have to go with a 9 out of 10. I think definitely this movie, you will enjoy it. I think it's definitely one of those ones that people in 5-10 years are going to be like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's a really rewatchable one because, you know, in 10 years, what's the Marvel Universe going to be like in 10 years? I don't know. But, yeah, definitely go check out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Thank you all so much for listening. If you liked what you saw, or listened here, I guess, because I'm not doing videos just yet, if you liked what you listened to on here, please go down and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll talk in depth. That would be really greatly appreciated, because I really want to start getting more subscribers. And yeah, my social media is listed down below in the description, as well as my SoundCloud. Please go listen to those. Follow me on Twitter. My Snapchat's down. I think my Snapchat. I might post my Snapchat down there. I'll think about it. But my Instagram will probably be down there. But yeah, go follow me on all those. Thank you so much for listening, because this has